Our headlines for you this morning. Pay deal for NHS staff in England is set to be pushed through, but nurses' unions say they may strike again.
More disruption for schools today as teachers walk out in their latest day of strike action.
Good morning. As households and businesses struggle with high energy bills, how much profit are the oil and gas companies making? BP, one of the UK's biggest firms, reveals its latest figures this morning after its profits last year doubled to £23 billion.
Good morning. Coronation Week is finally here. We're expected to spend £250 million on commemorative retail ahead of the big event. Now, this bowl alone will retail at £850. They're trusting me to see how it all comes together.
In sport, snooker's new superstar, how Belgium's Luca Brazil parted his way to the World Snooker title at the Crucible with a promise of more good times to come.
Look at this bay. It's absolutely beautiful today, and we have to be 100% sure before we do anything that could damage this beautiful environment.
A Canadian company called Planetary plans to capture and store carbon in these waters by pumping in an alkaline mineral called magnesium hydroxide via an outfall pipe. It's got the community concerned, with the question remaining, why here?
Well, Planetary says after extensive research on potential sites, the Cornish coast provides the ideal conditions because the water is shallow and turbulent and the currents keep water near the surface for a long time.
A very small trial took place last autumn, and the Environment Agency has asked for more information on the potential impact on this marine habitat, and the climate credentials are under scrutiny. As more questions are being asked, the company's hopes for a May or June second trial are looking uncertain.
Have a look at this morning's papers, shall we? There is that picture we mentioned of Princess Charlotte on the front page of the Times this morning. That's, as we said, marking her 8th birthday. Comes alongside an article about King Charles' popularity rising. The paper reports that 62% of us believe he will be good for the monarchy.
Sticking with the theme of the coronation, there's a lot of it about this morning as we get closer.
It's only Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday. The Metro is counting down to the big day as well. The paper reporting that it'll bring a £120 million boost to pubs with 62 million pints set to be sung, and to prove it, the King there setting the trend.
The Guardian has a front page story about the Home Office planning to acquire 10 disused cruise ships, ferries and barges to house asylum seekers in ports across the country. The paper reports that the backlog in applications is now 1,500 higher than in December, when the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged to clear it within a year.
We've seen the golden garments that the King will be wearing on Saturday, trending on BBC News Online at the moment. Some extraordinary costumes at the Met Gala do in New York. It was themed this year on the late fashion icon Karl Lagerfeld, it's always known for its extravagant outfits, isn't it? But this year there were pearls and starched collars and black and white to honour the designer.
And apparently a couple of people went as cats as well. He had a cat called Choupette, which is really famous. So a couple of people went as Choupette.
I know what he'd have liked.
Oh, yes.
I'll be his pet.
That would have really made him proud.
Nurses' pay dispute leads the eye, with a warning from hospital bosses that the stalemate needs to be broken because the backlog in the care system is so serious. The Express quotes one NHS leader criticising nurses who refused to staff a struggling intensive care ward despite management pleas. Now, the Telegraph leads with a report due soon, which it says shows that Sue Gray held secret talks with Labour's Keir Starmer while working for the team advising the Commons on Partygate's investigation. Now, the Times speaks to a leading historian who says the Cabinet Secretary, Simon Case, should resign because the civil service has, in his words, never been weaker and more demoralised or less powerfully led. Now, The Guardian returns to those Channel migrant crisis and says the Home Office is to acquire a fleet of ships to house asylum seekers coming to the UK before they're processed. Crown the hatch. The Metro begins the final countdown to the coronation with news that 652 million pints of beer will be drunk in celebration, making £120 million profits for the country's pubs. And the Mirror, well, it looks at the lineup for the Coronation concerts, from Lionel Richie to Anton Deck, with the headline there, Showbiz Royalty. Well, the Mail, meanwhile, carries the poll which finds that support for the royal family is rock solid, but that the institution does need some reform. And the Sun, too, has a poll which shows that Labour is at odds with the electorate on what it calls woke cultural issues. And if you want to see any of those front pages again or read the stories, scan the QR code on the screen.
I like this in the Mirror, Sal, as well. This is Stephanie Weaver. She's a retired bookkeeper, and every time she goes to a hotel or goes near a hotel, I was going to say nicks. I won't say nicks. She removes a soap from the bathroom and keeps as a memento. Anyway, she's got so many soaps. She's got hundreds and hundreds of soaps. She's now putting them up for auction, and she reckons that it's going to make her 200 quid.
Of soaps from hotels, what, the little
She's
teeny
cleaning up.
tiny ones?
Yeah.
She's literally cleaning up.
Literally cleaning up after all those little soaps. £200. There you go.
Oh, do you nick a hotel soap ever?
Need to get a lot
Occasionally,
to get to £200.